Welcome to the Vertical MRO Podcast, where we dive into the world of helicopter maintenance, repair, and overhaul. In each episode, we talk with the technicians, engineers, and experts who keep helicopters flying. Because at the end of the day, no maintenance, no mission.
The 500 is an amazing aircraft. I'm just going to tell you, there's very little to not like about it. The people that work at MD are fabulous. I mentioned Les Odom, Brad Rushton. Those people are killing themselves to get stuff to you, right? The aircraft is an amazing aircraft. It does everything you could want it to do to a point for us. You know, we really had a struggle with the weight and the power in the heat, right? So we're low elevation, really hot. My pilots are all taller than me, you know. Everybody's taller than me.
That's not really saying anything.
But, you know, and then you stack on a bunch of mission equipment because what do? You know, we always want to do more. We want to help more. We want to do more things. I love the simplicity of it all now. If you would have talked to me in 2005 when Wayne was teaching me all this, I was going crazy. You know, I'm trying to learn all this. But I had this gentleman with the patience that could walk me through these things. Now learning the Airbus by myself is a bit difficult. That's why it's so important to have your tech reps and neighboring people and good relationships with other mechanics.
Welcome to the Vertical MRO Podcast, brought to you by Vertical HeliCASTS in partnership with Vertical Magazine. In this special episode of the Vertical MRO Podcast, recorded live from the Vertical Valor booth at APSCON, the Airborne Public Safety Association's annual conference in Phoenix, Arizona, I'm joined by guest host Jeff Rakovich from the Hangar Z podcast to honor the service of Matt Pagano, maintainer for the Riverside Police Department Air Support Unit. Matt was recently honored with the 2025 Airborne Public Safety Aviation Technical Specialist Award. The Technical Specialist Award identifies and recognizes an individual whose efforts or actions in maintaining or repairing aircraft or aircraft parts, including avionics, operated by a law enforcement agency were performed in an extraordinary manner, above and beyond what's normally expected, and whose efforts have brought distinction upon themselves, their department, and the Airborne Public Safety Association. A central focus of the discussion is Riverside's transition from the MD-500 to the Airbus H-125, a shift that's required Matt to prepare new facilities, adapt to evolving mission equipment, and lean on the broader helicopter community for support. Matt shares how mentorship, teamwork, and knowledge sharing within the aviation industry have been essential in navigating this change. Together, Jeff, Matt, and I dive into the importance of building a culture of safety and trust, investing in tools and training, and recognizing the legacy of beloved aircraft like the MD-500. Thanking our sponsors, Safe Structure Designs, Robinson Helicopter Company, and Vertical Aviation International. Thank you to this episode's sponsors, Safe Structure Designs, Robinson Helicopter Company, and Vertical Aviation International. Hey, welcome to the Vertical MRO Podcast. I'm today's host, John Gray. With us today for these conversations is the Jeff Rakovich. How you doing, sir?
Wow, yeah, that's quite an introduction.
I gotta do this.
I came out of retirement. No, I'm just kidding.
You and Captain Fleer came out of retirement.
That's right.
just for APSCON. No, it's an honor to have you here. Always love recording with you.
I'm sorry, I should have called you
Nightshade. Oh, you beat me to it. Yeah. I was going to get there.
Yeah. I didn't mean to take the conversation there at all so early, but here we are. We're at APSCON 2025 in Phoenix, Arizona, and it's been a great show for us. It's been cool for us on the Hangar Z podcast and now with the Vertical MRO podcast to profile the award recipients that APSA issues every year. And for this particular episode, our goal and honor and privilege is to interview the recipient of the APSA Technical Specialist of the Year Award winner. And what's not only special about the fact that our guest was the recipient of the award, this guest also had I don't know if it was a privilege or not, but got the opportunity to work with Jeff Rakovich at Riverside PD. So any words before we enter and start this conversation with our guest?
Well, the reason why I'm here is to be a fact checker. I felt like, you ambushed me with Steve Quinn for my birthday a couple years ago. And so when I found out Matt got this award, I'm like, I need to make a special trip out. But no, really, honestly, the guys at Riverside, we're all still close, the guys in the unit. And once I found out Matt was getting the award and some of us were going to make the journey out here to be here to support Matt, I can't think of somebody more deserving of the award than Matt. So that's why I'm here, and it's great to be here. I love coming to APSCON. It's like a homecoming. It's a reunion every time you come here, see your friends and all of that, and then knowing that a close friend is getting a major award. I think it is a leg lamp.
I think
I'm pretty sure it is a leg lamp.
Fragile.
Yeah,
it's Italian.
It's Italian. Yeah. So
for the folks that are listening that may not know what APSCON is, it's Airborne Public Safety Association's annual conference. It's kind of our national conference. And for those that aren't familiar with Jeff on the MRO side, Jeff was the original co-host on the Hangar Z podcast, and he helped grow the Hangar Z podcast to where it is today. Left California, moved to Tennessee, and is doing the Lord's work in Tennessee. Jeff not only is a pilot and a police officer, but prior to and this is another unique tie-in, prior to being in law enforcement, was an A&P. Was a mechanic, and the two of you actually met at A&P school, from what I hear.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Northrop Bryce.
We were at Northrop Bryce in late 90s, early 2000, going to school together on the night shift and working. I was working at America West Airlines as a ramper, and Matt and I crossed paths there for the first time. And then it wasn't until, I started working at Riverside. I was a relief tactical flight officer and, would come into the hangar every once in a while. And Matt and I started talking and realized that, we went to night classes.
Wow.
We crossed paths in A&P school all those years ago. And look at us now.
Yeah, yeah.
We both got glasses.
Yeah. I have much
gray
less
hair.
And gray. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to jump ahead. Usually when we kind of dive into your background and talk about how you got to where you are, but I want to jump ahead to just after A&P school. Jeff had made mention that he went to the airlines. What was your first position out of A&P school? Did you go to the airlines as well, or what was your first job out of A&P school?
So I was pretty fortunate. Once I got out of the Marine Corps, I served 4 years at Tustin. A friend of mine put me in touch with a company, Hamilton Standard prop company in Long Beach, and I had been working there. And while I was working there, I actually went to school at night to get my A&P. Once I received it, I had no intention of leaving Hamilton Standard. I was very happy. I was in quality. I was moving up. I was in the NDT department, doing a lot of things, moving through the company. What was it, 2002, they announced the closure that Christmas, and everyone got let go, from the janitor to the president. And I scrambled for a position, and that's when I ended up at Riverside PD.
Okay.
Yeah, I interviewed. It's a crazy story. I applied the day I got the announcement. So we got back from Christmas vacation. We got our layoff notices, but because I was part of the quality department, I was able to stay till the end. So good and bad. I got to watch a lot of good mechanics leave, but I also got to stay. And immediately applied, had an interview in, I think, February, probably the worst interview I've ever had in my life. My predecessor, Wayne Young. I mean, I'm pretty good, the softball questions, but when it got to the nitty gritty 500, because we were running the 500s at the time, and he was super, super hard. And during the interview, I was spiraling. I was out of it. And the chief pilot at the time, Paul Benoit, leaned back and he was like, "Hey, maybe take a breath." And I was like, I'm gonna stop the interview. And I said, I don't know if I misrepresented on my, on my resume, but I have no experience on this aircraft. And they were like, no, we're good. And it thank God that little break just kind of brought me back in. And oddly enough, the day I was picking up my last check, they offered me the job.
Wow.
Yeah.
God's timing is pretty awesome.
It
is.
Yeah.
And those little minute things that happen in life make all the difference sometimes.
Yeah.
That one little pause, made the difference between you looking for a different job, not Riverside PD, and now you've been with Riverside for 23 years?
23.
Wow.
Yeah.
23-year difference in one small fraction of a minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty awesome. Let me back up a little bit. So the Technical Specialist Award, let me read about what that is a little bit. And then, Jeff, I want to ask you when I'm done to kind of fill in some of the gaps of why he was selected as the recipient of this award from your perspective, having worked with him. So the Airborne Public Safety Association's Technical Specialist of the Year Award is an honor awarded to individuals who demonstrated exceptional knowledge, expertise, and contributions in the field of airborne public safety operations. It recognizes those who provided outstanding technical support, innovation, or leadership that enhances the safety, efficiency, and effectiveness of public safety missions, such as aerial firefighting, search and rescue, law enforcement, or other emergency response activities. Talk about the fact that there's no maintenance, there's no mission a lot. And that's because of the work you're doing. So from your perspective, based on the description of that award, what do you think, why does he fit that bill?
Matt's probably one of the most conscientious, detail-oriented mechanics that I've ever worked with, met, know. He, like he said, Wayne Young, who was the senior mechanic when Matt was hired on, and then, gosh, you guys worked together for how many years before he retired?
17 years.
Yeah, 17. Wayne is he's like an encyclopedia especially of the MD 500. I mean, we weren't obviously there's still some agencies out there flying them, but we had flown the MDs for so long, and Wayne had worked on them for so long that he was the guy that people would call when they had that issue that nobody's ever seen before. He just knew that aircraft inside and out. And working for Wayne, Matt picked up that same knowledge base, and for so long we were operating the 500s, and that was really our only airframe, the Ds and the E models, that Matt became a subject matter expert on the aircraft as well. And I mean, there wasn't, you could go out into his toolbox, and I mean, every tool is in its place and pristine. I mean, just that kind of detail oriented, that I knew that if Matt worked on my aircraft, I'm still going to do a pre-flight, obviously, but I knew that without a doubt, that aircraft, if he returned it to service, that aircraft was ready to go. And he would be the first one to jump in the aircraft with you after doing, some heavy maintenance, to go out and make sure that that aircraft was ready to return to service. We talk a lot about, especially with pilots, I'd never put my family in that aircraft with that guy, or, the same goes, on the maintenance side of things, is that I would never question putting my loved ones in an aircraft that Matt's worked on, because I know how well the maintenance is going to be done on it. And he's a guy that you can call at 2:00 in the morning and be like, hey, I've got this issue. And that happens quite a bit with having one mechanic, two mechanics in your shop, and you're running 20 hours a day operations, that things are going to pop up in the middle of the night, and you could always call Matt. And even if it's, apparently now, they call him for to learn how to use the coffee maker in the shop. I've heard that
if
recently.
Something's broke, you get a call.
Yeah, they're I don't know how to make the
is.
coffee in the coffee maker, and they call Matt at 11 o'clock at night.
I say anything from the broken urinal all the way to an annual. So what do you need?
Yeah.
On that, let me switch to you for a minute. Talk about unit operations. 20 hours a day, you're flying a lot. You've switched from the MD 500 platform to the A-Stars. Can you talk a little bit about the aviation unit, what aircraft you're using, a little bit about what I just described, and so kind of people get an understanding of where you work and what your mission is?
Well, when I first got hired, we had 4 500s. We had 2 Ds, 2 Es. We were budgeting for about 800 hours a year per ship is where we really were. We moved out, sold a D. It had 23,000 hours on it. Sold the second D, 23,000 hours, or 22 or so. And we picked up an airplane. We had the Cessna T206 for a little bit. And then the city kind of just made the decision. It was a long process of thinking, figuring out which aircraft best suited what we wanted to do in our mission and how we would grow. And the Airbus, the B3E was the one. It's a great machine, but we're flying right now about 1,200 hours a ship, and is where we are. We're trying to bring that back a little bit, just for budget reasons and maintenance reasons. It becomes a tough thing when we're doing the fire mission. We're doing a lot of things, and I don't believe maintenance should ever dictate, your flying. I mean, obviously, we have to work in conjunction, but there should never be a time that I'm not trying to make things mission ready all the time. Obviously, things happen like overspeeds and things of that nature. We just had one of those, which hurt. When you're a 2-ship aviation law enforcement shop, 2 aircraft is tough enough. And when you're putting that many hours on it, and you're doing a lot of good work, my pilots are amazing. It makes it hard.
Yeah, going from one platform to another there's so much training and learning that's involved in that. There's bound to be something that happens. Unfortunately, he had an overspeed. Can you talk about, from your perspective, some of the steps you took the investigative steps, the troubleshooting steps you took as a maintainer once that ship you identified there was an overspeed? How did you address that, and what did you find that may have or may not have been interesting?
Well, and the nice thing is, and I believe this, is my pilots and I are very, very close. I don't know of any other agency that has the relationship that we have, and like Jeff and I have had, and it's not just my pilots now, it's all the pilots that have gone through that I've been there for. Truly, I believe all of them to be friends. And I would, in a minute, take a phone call from all of them. The pilot that had the overspeed called me immediately. If obviously it tells on you, there's no way around it. We learned a lot because the APSA camera should have told us exactly what happened. I learned that every time you power cycle the thing, it actually it takes away a block of recording. So when they landed, they're power cycling it and they're taking time. And then, of course, we come in. Of course, they grounded it because we had the other ship and they were flying that. We power cycled it so many times that we overwrote what we could have seen as to what he had seen on the gauges. And he went into the F2. So it wasn't super, super bad, but it was out of the first kind of everything you can look at it in-house. We had to send everything out for inspection, set us back. I learned a lot about that camera, and my pilot felt terrible. I mean,
right.
and that meant a lot to me because you hear of people just, it's broken, and they just walk away. I have never encountered a pilot with that kind of attitude. Maybe I'm just fortunate. I don't know what it is. I'd like to think it's the relationship that I build with my pilots. We all care about one another. We do things outside of just work. And I treat it as, when I'm working on the aircraft, I'm not just working on the aircraft for them. I'm doing it for them and their families, because the last thing you want is an incident.
Yeah. In the initial parts of the investigative troubleshooting steps you took, was there any visual indicators that there was an overspeed, or was it all just the internal sensors that were telling you there was one?
Yeah, it's just the VEMD tattling, and that's really it. The fault code, it lets you know right away. And visually, there is really nothing that I could see. And again, I'm sure that's why you have to send it in. The blades had to go to Airbus. I have a great relationship with the advanced helicopters and Adam, and he facilitated everything because, again, I'm so new to the aircraft, right? And I'm lucky in the fact that I'm in Southern California, and all the neighboring agencies such as, Riverside Sheriff and Ontario and San Bernardino and Anaheim, they've been doing this for a long time. So, when I need something or I need help, I can always pick up the phone, call Luis Morales or Jose or, any of these guys. And I'm very fortunate in that also, where we have a good relationship and they are always willing to help. And I'm not new. I may be new to this, but they're not. So, they're like, okay, take a deep breath. It's going to be fine. Let's see where you were. And I can't say enough about the tech reps, Jeff Marzano and Bob Snow. I mean, it's just phenomenal help and support. And it happened on a Saturday, and I pick up the phone. I call just about every one of those people because I'm at home, and they walk through it all, and it takes me from here to here, and again, being by yourself, or even having another mechanic that's fairly new, it's a bit stressful. You have a lot of stressors. What are we going to do? How are we going to keep mission ready and things of that nature? So
you talked about the camera. You said you learned a lot outside of the power cycling. That I'm assuming if you went back and had to do it again, you would omit the power cycling so you could capture the data from the camera. But aside from that, was there anything about the camera that you learned that may be of interest to folks that might find themselves in that same situation? I will say, get ahead of it. It's not super easy to. It is once you know. It's one of those once you get through it and do it. Well, we have a SOP now where if there is an incident, or they're obviously not super
drastic. But if it's something like that, where it's just a matter of returning to their hangar, and the immediate thing to do is pull the breaker on the camera. That way we cannot do it again, because again, learning these things will help in the future. But I would really love to see, all the gauges and see what was going on in the cockpit, and that camera would have shown all that. And I pulled the SD card out of the other ship, and I'm looking at that. I'm like, oh, there, I see the last couple flights, and come to this one, and I look, and all I see is pilots and mechanics in the cockpit looking around, like playing around with the VEMD and doing all this stuff. And I'm like, why can't I find this footage? So I take the camera, I call, and I say, I'm going to send it in. I sent it in. They took care of me right away, and I was hoping to get it off the internal memory, but we had power cycled it just too many times.
Wow. That's cool. It speaks to the value of that camera.
Absolutely.
As a pilot, I think Jeff and I have both heard stories of people hanging caps or
hanging
something off those cameras because they don't trust what's being captured in
Big
those.
brother, man.
Yeah. There's a lot of value in that data, right?
Yeah. We were really going to use it as a learning tool. We wanted to sit down. I mean, the one thing my chief pilot, Chris Tavaloni, and I years ago, and we were at I think it was ABSCON Reno. We were sitting around like poolside after hours, and we're like, one day this is going to be our shop. Like Wayne Young's going to be gone, and Dave Mullins and all these senior guys are going to be gone, and this is going to be our shop. And where do we want to be, and what do we want to have? And one of the biggest things was, a just culture. We wanted to have that instilled in everybody, not just us, but our command. And we had just gotten a brand new lieutenant, and he's still trying to wrap his head around budget numbers and things of that nature. And then, boom, we hit him with an overspeed. And so now we're having to explain to him to then go explain to the higher ups, because they're not aviation guys. Obviously trying to explain something at that magnitude just in sheer cost. Of course, they want to say, well, I think the police officer comes out and they're like, well, we want to do an investigation. It's like, well, hold on. Like, this is where we are. And this is something that's pretty common in our business. And the best way I could equate it, and the only thing I could really tie it to, is a hot start in a 500. It stinks. It's terrible. But it happened. It's part of the job. I mean, I've had exceedances before they changed the requirements where you would have to pull the can and do a visual check. It happens. It's part of the business. And you know what? You don't want to crucify people for minor mistakes, because then what's that create? It creates a sneaky, poorly run aviation unit. And Jeff and I could speak to that in volumes where you start treating people that way and things just it gets worse. It doesn't improve anything.
No, it definitely creates a culture that you don't want, of safety and trust. And I think that's something that we, like he was saying with him and Chris, that conversation, that was, I remember that period where it was like, hey, we have this one chance to like change the culture of this unit. And it's this period where we were in that transition where, I don't want to call them the old guys, but I guess they were. Now we're the old guys. But they were leaving, and new blood was coming into the unit, and it's like that's when you can capture that without having to like shove it down people's throats. If you bring people up from the beginning with that just culture mindset, it's easy to, as you're transitioning through and bringing new people in, to bring them into that culture immediately. And now it's set, and now it just becomes the standard, and we were in that in between period was kind of rough. And, I went through an incident with a low fuel incident. I felt like I was, I thought I was going to get fired, and the command and the non-aviators were like, this is ridiculous. This should have never happened. And it's like, well, you're right. It shouldn't have happened. But there were some breakdowns that created this, and we need to address those so it doesn't happen again. You don't crucify the person. You look at what created that, and and then address it, and then move forward.
What happened is a symptom of a bigger problem, right?
Correct.
So you identify the symptom and find a solution to treat that.
Right.
From your perspective in the shop, how do you promote that culture from your perspective?
Thank you to our sponsor, Robinson Helicopter Company, the choice for unrivaled safety and reliability so you can accomplish any mission with confidence. For more than half a century, Robinson has been at the forefront of the helicopter industry. From the R-22 to the R-66 turbine, Robinson makes helicopters accessible so more people can accomplish more missions. Climb higher. For additional information, visit www.robinsonheli.com.
I'm from Philadelphia. I'm a straight shooter. I'm not a bullshit guy. I do not like the whole, if I have a problem with you, I tell 13 other people about the problem I have with you. I'm a guy that I would prefer to just come to you. It's just the way I am. Some people would believe it's abrasive, I guess, maybe. And the fact I'm 5 foot tall, maybe a Napoleon complex, I don't know. But I believe in not just addressing what's going on. I think people need to understand the whys too, and a lot of times it may not go over well. It may not go the way they want it to go, and maybe they see it in a different direction. But I'm a reasonable person. I'll hear you. But at the end of the day, Chris and I run the shop, and we have standards that we set, and we took huge steps and to get us where we are. And it goes back to what Jeff was saying. It's what you say it is. We have all new pilots, and I say all. There's 3 that have been there for a bit more time than the others, but they love it, and there's no other way of doing things. So there's no looking back at what it was or the way things could have. I heard this. Well, that's great. You can go work there, because we have that relationship. We do Wednesday meetings. All of us are together. It's all hands, everybody, the mechanics and the pilots. And
talk about that a little bit.
Open that all. It opens up doors. You could have some. It's stupid to say, but somebody spilled something in Hangar One's $1 million cup holders. Sorry, Ken. Yeah, and they're like, what are you doing? And I know it's you, and it's like, well, let's just hash this out, because it may seem like a small thing, but it does leak down further into the controls, and you're drinking your energy drink and it's seeping in.
So we shouldn't have Slurpees in the aircraft?
No, I'll never tell them what to do or not do in the aircraft. You can go ahead. I'm just there to fix it. But I think the biggest thing that came of all that, and I always say this, Jeff and Mike Dillon out at SLED, I really wish they were at the hangar now, from where it was to where it is now, because it is a different animal, and it wasn't like a terrible thing. It's just different, and I enjoyed those years, and those pilots were all great. It's just different, but it wasn't where we are today, especially with the B3. It's a much different. I don't believe it's as forgiving as the 500. The 500's a bit more forgiving, my opinion. Yeah. So
going back to the weekly meetings, is the purpose of that would be a safety meeting? Is that what you guys are qualifying that as, or is it something else?
Well, it could be, pick on somebody.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be that.
But more importantly is, you have some units will have meetings where it's, the pilots and TFOs and but we always had Wayne and Matt, the mechanics in there with us, and we go around the room and, kind of like in seniority order, guys, any issues guys have, bring it up, maybe we're going to brief training, or, we're going to do some training, or whatever the case is. But it's a way, it's the only day, Wednesdays were the only days where everybody was going to be at the hangar. And with the overlap between, the day crew and the night crew, and everybody's there, as a unit, and including the mechanics. And then they obviously have an opportunity to talk about any inspections that are coming due, and or hey, we need to be mindful of flight time because we're going to roll this one into inspection. And it seems like more of a juggling act now with just 2 aircraft. That's the least amount of aircraft the unit's had in ages. We've always had plenty of aircraft to go around, and then we had the airplane for a while, which that came in when I was there. And at the time, we had enough guys that were airplane qualified that we could fly the airplane once I left, Mike left. That left Chris as like the only airplane guy there anymore, and he's too busy training and,
he was
running
CFI
the unit
and training new pilots
to fly the airplane. But so that gave us another capability and another option if an AD came out that had to be complied with, and the aircraft are down. So I'm sure it's probably more of a headache for Matt now with just 2 aircraft and all these guys that are. And what was always nice about our unit is that in that, with this new generation especially, is like guys are eager to fly. Guys want to go out and catch bad guys and do the work that we're expected to do. And so I can only imagine it's probably sometimes a mess when it comes to rolling aircraft into inspections or whatever. But that unit meeting gives everybody an opportunity to be on that same sheet of music, and it's great. And because I'll be honest, like every morning, if you're on the day crew, every morning, like you get your cup of coffee, and we'd go in and sit in Matt and Wayne's office and solve the world's problems and hang out. And he mentioned it earlier, like, we all knew each other's families and our kids and everything. It was a very good family environment, at the hangar. And that extends. I mean, I've coming from a maintenance side as a crew chief in the Army on Blackhawks and stuff, the pilots that endeared themselves the most to me were the guys that treated us as equals. And so becoming a pilot and working with these guys, we are equals. We all have a collective mission, and their side of the maintenance side of it to support the flight operations, and that's what we go out and do every day to support the men and women on the ground in our communities. And so having that relationship with Matt and Wayne and just being as close as we were, I mean, I love these guys. I still do. I mean, like last night, hanging out with, him and Chris, and unfortunately Steve Quinn showed up, but, I mean, can't have your cake and eat it too, I guess. But
I think one of the biggest things was when I got hired, I came from a large facility. We had like 250 mechanics and Christmas parties and things. And I'll never forget, I got hired in September. And I was like, oh, so, do we do a Christmas party? Like, yeah, I'm that guy. I'm like, yeah, let's do something. And they're like, we barely like working with one another, And I'm like, what? And it wasn't quite that bad, but there were definitely, you had the night guys, it's the typical day crew, night crew, even in the maintenance side, I was in the military. The night crew guys didn't do anything. The day crew guys did everything. It's always that. But starting that Wednesday meeting absolutely has crushed that.
And we've had some pretty epic Christmas parties.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
A few of them I don't even remember.
It's a birthday party I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember that.
Yeah. It's it really works for us. I mean, we're not like LASO or we're not that big. We're not as big as a lot of these agencies. But I can't imagine not having that relationship with the guys. I just don't know. I don't know what it would be like.
The reason I'm digging on the concept of the meeting is because I think it highlights the communication that you're talking about that takes place in those, and how that translates into everybody kind of pulling in the same direction, everyone working towards one mission. You talked about it, Jeff, and I think we've gone away from the concept that the pilot is here, the tactical flight officer, the flight medic, or whatever the rear crew is here, and the mechanic's here. No, we're all on the same team. We're all pulling for the same mission. So it's cool to hear you guys kind of come up with a way to remedy what you talk about. This is siloing, everyone kind of going in their own little area and not talking, and kind of remedying that. That'll never be fully remedied, but it sounds like it drastically improved communications and morale and everyone working towards the same goal. So I commend you there. That's great.
Yeah, that was a game changer. And we do tons of stuff like if we find a maintenance issue or something that may spark an interest, and we'll walk out to the aircraft and we'll do a little show and tell action, or it could be something as silly as house cleaning, because I'm very particular about my shop, and keeping it clean, and I don't mind them using my tools, but I always use the term, I don't need to be on the Easter egg hunt when I need to get my tools, right?
Tell that to my kids.
Yeah. Phillips head screwdriver, always gone. But I mean, we have emergency procedures for, like, if we were to lose power at the hangar and something that just came up, and we can now reverse feed the hangar motors and So we did a class on that because a lot of the newer pilots never knew we had that capability. And these hangar doors, if the generator goes and everything's gone, like, we can't get these doors open. Like, when I first got hired, they're like, oh, we'll just cut it down with a torch. I'm like, they kill people. They're like, we'll drive through it with the Bearcat. I'm like, okay. Like, good luck with that too. Yeah. So,
yeah, I think didn't they say that the procedure was going to be the fire department would come out with the K-12s and cut the doors or something like that?
Yeah, they had all kinds of end arounds. I'm like, or how about we set up a generator right here and backfeed the motor, and because all our command posts have generators strapped at the back end of these things, and they're going to be locked in the hangar with us.
Yeah.
Because we house the Metro team and some command vehicles and such, and TACCAT.
It's interesting you bring up that conversation, because we actually had that conversation a lot too, and ours really surrounded earthquakes.
Yeah.
You think of the hangar door getting bent, being in a position where it's out of line, the hangar door motors won't open them. What do you do at that point? Did you guys have any plans or contingencies with something like that?
We do have a lot of doors. So my hope would be at least we could get one going. I have a torch kit, and I'm like started way back, like working on bicycles, mini bikes, and me and my friends, we did everything from just tearing everything down and not knowing what we're doing, building everything. We just always turning wrenches and stuff. I have faith I could get something out of the hangar one way or another.
We can't talk about his background.
Yeah. That was a surprise.
Are those
that
records
I actually
sealed?
got
I don't
hired.
know.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now that we're on backgrounds, let's actually, as Jack Shanley says, let's go back in time and talk about, how you got into A&P school, what your drive was to go into aviation, and how you got. We kind of know how you got to where you are, but talk about that a little bit.
Just briefly, always a mechanic. I love turning wrenches. I won't say had to get out of Philadelphia, but I'll say wanted to get out of Philadelphia. Left Philadelphia. I joined the Marine Corps. I walked in, and recruiter's dream. I just hand him everything, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I just need to get out of Philadelphia.
I just got a job for you."
And he's like, "Open contract." And I was like, "All right, that's what we do." I go, "How fast can I leave?" And he tells me 6 weeks or something like that at the time. But during those times, I was helping them work. I was working on their cars, and he calls me and he says, "I got the best job for you." And I became a T-58 CH-46 engine mech at the intermediate level. So I was a mid-level engine guy, and just fell in love with the whole. Again, I get it. I have a thing about structure, and that's just the way things go. That's just the way I'm wired, right? And so then I'm exposed to this. I'm a Northeast Philadelphia kid. Aviation was not even a thought. Like nobody ever came to my high school and was like, "You can work on aircraft, or you can come fly, and you can do these things." That was never ever a thing. So once I was shown that world, it just really clicked with me, and the whole, what they say, do as I say, and do it. It's just that part of it just clicked with me, and I just fell in love with it. And when I got out of the Marine Corps, I actually was trying to start a Italian ice business, but I was working at Hamilton Standard already, and the Italian ice business failed miserably. California didn't help me, but anyway, one of the gentlemen there, he was an Air Force guy. He's like, "Why aren't you going to get your A&P? Like, to me, you have this whole background. It's like going to high school and just not picking up your diploma." And I'm like, it really clicked. It triggered. I'm like, yeah, I may never need it because we were a repair station and you didn't need your A&P there, right? But I was like, you know what? Yeah. So Hamilton, which is United Technologies, which is now, I think Raytheon owns them. I think it's the new Raytheon Technologies. They paid for me to go to A&P school, and my wife and I had just bought a house. It was a heck of a schedule. I'd go to work at 5 to 4:30 in Long Beach, and be at LA with Jeff at 5:30, and we'd get off at 12. And we did that, and it was tough, but in the end, it's the things, like you said, it's the little things. And a very good friend of mine kind of pushed me. Him and I were both in the Marine Corps together. He's now a fireman in Vegas, but he was the one that really drove me to do it. And that other gentleman, and he's like, he's right. Like, why aren't we doing this? This is crazy. We should get this, because once you have it, they can't take it away from you. And I was like, yeah, that's brilliant. And it's taking care of my family so well. I can't speak enough to that. And I can't say how much I appreciate Wayne Young, because he kind of took a chance. I get a little choked up about it, because when he retired, it really hit home, because him taking a chance on me, here I am, engine mech from the Marine Corps, a little bit of boat time and like helping out with the air crews and doing that. And then, go into Hamilton Standard, I was like a blade guy, and then moved into the hubs and components and jettison pumps and NDT, and then quality, which is a real niche that I really enjoy. To him giving me an opportunity to and mentor me on this helicopter, and I just can't thank him enough, because it's given me all this, and I don't know how to ever repay him. But during them early years, it wasn't just Wayne, and I can't thank all the people enough, because it's people like at Helimart that I'd call, because I'm so new to this, and I'd say, hey Jay, I need this, and I rattle off a part number. He's like, yeah, Matt, I don't think that's what you want. And I'm like, no, I think I do. And he's like, no, you want this, and it's a -21. And I'm like, oh, you're right, that is what I want.
No, dude, you don't want none of this.
Yeah, exactly. And it just carried on. I mean, Heroes at Heroes Inc., he's another one that, like, I think that's what makes our niche in the world great, because there are so many people. It's there, the support's there, and there's so much knowledge out there. And to reach out and to have people to help you along in those times, you can't say thank you enough. But people calling me about 500 problems are weird. Like Jeff said, somebody will call me, oh, I got this crazy thing, and this is happening, and that's happening. I'm like, did you check the elastomerics in the tail? He's like, no, why would I even look at those? And I was like, well, that sometimes is a symptom. And oh my gosh, it's that. It's just one of those things. I have a book. I have a spiral notebook of crazy things that we ran into. And quick story with Jeff, their AD popped off on the dual controls on the 500, and I had to tear that all apart. And Les Odom had to help me, and I had to put this thing together. And really, the only people that put this together are actually the people that assemble the aircraft. Like, most people don't get into this. And Jeff, actually, I was like, Jeff, please be my pilot today, because I got this all back together. And we just hover taxied for a little bit, and off we went. But Jeff was my go-to pilot. There's a few over the years, but he is absolutely one.
That's still recording, right? We got that on record. Okay.
Well, going back to what you're saying just a minute ago. Yeah. You're talking about someone taking a chance on you, and you're talking about mentorship. And I think we can all think of that one person who gave us the shot to get us to where we were. I see Eric Widener walking around the show. He's the person for me that's like selecting me to aviation and has become a mentor to me. And I'm sure who's the person that comes to mind first for you?
Dave Mullins.
I was just going to say.
Dave Mullins. He was the CFI when I came into the unit, and we hit it off before I came into the unit. And really because of John Fears. And John Fears was one of we interviewed him years ago on the podcast. John was Dave's mentor, and came in, and Dave taught me how to be a pilot. And he had all those connections in the airborne law enforcement community because he'd been doing it for so long. It was like he passed the torch. And Matt was talking about Wayne mentoring him. I think that's one thing that we really developed in our unit. We did get some byproducts of that, like Steve Quinn, but I think we've done a really good job in that unit of bringing guys up. And Mike Dillon had no desire to ever never crossed his mind to be a pilot in the aviation unit, wanted to be a canine handler. And Chris and I were talking about it at the hangar one day. Brought Mike out. He would never leave after that, and now, he's flying for SLED in South Carolina. Steve was another one that it was like, it literally started as a joke to bring Steve out. And so we've really, I think that's probably the best thing about the culture of the RPD Air Unit is like we identify guys that we see the potential, and we develop that, and we bring these guys up in that culture. It's phenomenal. And
yeah, you see a lot of times where somebody may be really good at something, but then they harbor it to themselves, or maybe they give you a little bit of it, but they don't give you all of it because, and there's that threat, or that fear of what may come. People like Wayne and Dave, always willing to help and give, and I think it shows. It shows in all aspects. You see their success too because of it. It's because of them. Everybody is where they are today.
Yeah, it highlights again the importance of mentorship, right? So we've all benefited from mentors we've had in our careers, and I think now we're in a position where we're trying to give that back, which is really cool. I think it's more rewarding giving that mentorship, being that mentor than it is from the opposite, So it's really cool to be at that point of our career. But let's go back to your early part of your career with RPD. You're working on the MD 500s. Talk about what you liked about the MD 500. You worked on that aircraft for how many years total?
Oh, that would be 21.
21 years.
Yeah, 21 years.
So you filled up a binder full of tribal knowledge.
Oh,
in those
yeah.
21 years of that 500. What did you like about that?
No hydraulics.
That's actually, it's not as bad. There's.
Verticon was epic. More than 600 companies, 15,000 attendees, and the cutting edge of vertical aviation technology. Next stop, Atlanta. The show floor is filling fast. Apply for space. Secure your spot now at the world's largest vertical aviation show, Verticon, powered by VAI at verticon.org.
There's that. I'm going to start with that. I'm just going to say there's this fear mongering of like that 500 guys are like, oh, you're going to hate it. You're going to hate all the mods and all the baloney. But the 500 is an amazing aircraft. I'm just going to tell you, there's very little to not like about it. If you're not going to like something, you're not going to like the struggles they have with, supplying parts and you're going AOG for, main rotor gearbox and things of that nature. You can get angry at that, but the people that work at MD are fabulous. I mentioned Les Odom, Brad Rushton. Those people are killing themselves to get stuff to you, right? The aircraft is an amazing aircraft. It does everything you could want it to do to a point. For us, we really had a struggle with the weight and the power in the heat, right? So we're low elevation, we're really hot. My pilots are all taller than me, Everybody's taller than me.
That's not really saying anything.
I know. But and then you stack on a bunch of mission equipment because what do? We always want to do more. We want to help more. We want to do more things, and I love the simplicity of it all, and I say that now. If you would have talked to me in 2005 when Wayne was teaching me all this, I was going crazy. I'm trying to learn all this, but I had this gentleman with the patience that could walk me through these things, right? Now learning the Airbus by myself is a bit difficult. That's why it's so important to have your tech reps and neighboring people and good relationships with other mechanics. But that 500, had we not wanted to expand our mission, and we had some other things, along the lines, we had a CHP officer shot and killed, and that was very difficult because we tried to take him out. He's a taller man, and he got his legs out one end, and the TFO is holding him on the other side, and they're trying to get him to the hospital, and that it's a lot easier in a bigger ship. So you're constricted on what you can do. And I know we had a gurney kit and 3.8 Alpha, which we never used, but it was there if we needed it. And that was one of our early D models. If you're looking for a patrol ship, I don't think there's a better ship. I mean, I know the 505s out there, and I can't speak to that, but the MD 500 in a patrol mission in a smaller city, if you're not looking to do rescues or firefighting or any of those things, you're not going to, crush it with a ton of mission equipment. It's a great aircraft, and the DOCs are pretty nice. I'm just saying, now that I'm in the Airbus world, it's It's a wonderful aircraft, and I think everyone that flies it or has flown it will tell you it's a fun aircraft. It's fast. It's agile. You can do things that I don't know that you can do in anything else. And they're all the things I loved about it.
That spiral bound notebook you've got, the book and travel knowledge. What was the most unique thing, or I don't call it an incident, but what was the most unique thing you put in that book as it relates to the MD-500? The most, I guess, time-consuming troubleshooting effort you ever undertook?
Oh, you'll laugh about this, but so as we know, I'm just going to say, right, as a maintainer, you should be redoing your avionics regularly. If you're going to keep aircraft for as long as we kept them, and again, 23,000, 22,000, 17,000, 9,000, I mean, you should give your avionics some love. So we were having an avionics problem, and it was fairly serious, but at any time they would fly, the engine out light and horn would beep, and then go out and it'd be gone.
How'd that feel, Jeff?
And
It's not fun.
and it was mind blowing, because we're like, oh, it's this, and we're putting filters and we're doing this and doing that, and it's just meep. In the middle of the night they're flying meep. And of course we'd like to correlate things. We're going to tie something to something. Oh, it's only when we're in March's airspace. That's when. So now we're thinking maybe there's some EMI bleeding and it's triggering the EPO, and we're doing. Finally, we like put it in the corner. I started at the wrong end, by the way. Started at the back, and I just started chasing wires all the way. We were removing bubbles and changing glass anyway, and there was a wire at the terminal block broken, and it would just go. And it was just that big. It was that big piece of wire up in the center console, up behind it. I forget what terminal block, and it would just connect.
Momentary disconnection.
Yep. And it wasn't until chasing all the way forward, and again, we were doing a bunch of other maintenance at the time anyway. And but avionics is my nightmare. That's why I have Hangar One and Ken and Mike Clearman. I just go, yo, can you take this? Because I don't want to deal with this. And being by myself, honestly, it's a better move. It would take me 3 weeks to find something they'd find in a day, or maybe not 3 weeks, but it's certainly for me. At some point, I have to do like a cost analysis. Like, I could be working on this aircraft in this inspection or doing this and send this to them, and they're, that level, or, rotorcraft support, they're really good to us over the years. Or do I start getting the book, which as soon as I even say it, I get a crick in my neck, because I hate it that much, really. It's just, I think the people that can do it and do it well, they're just special people. But I'm not one of them, that's for sure.
It's funny, as a pilot, I think about some of the things that I wrote up, and I'd be like, hey, Aaron, this is the problem we've got, and it'd always be like, cannot duplicate. And what you're describing is a cannot duplicate, but you saw it firsthand. How did you guys communicate this and try and solve that problem?
I don't remember being too involved in the engine out deal, but there was something else we had, and I'm trying to remember what it was. It was the radio. I think it was a radio issue.
Oh yeah, that was a crazy one. Yeah, so prior to getting onto the radio system that we're on PSEC right now, but on the old system, and I don't remember the frequencies that we were on. It was the analog. It would chop. So they'd be on a yard to yard, and they would be inactive, like an armed gentleman, and they'd be on and as soon as, sometimes they would trigger, and it would go, and they're over channel 1 trying to talk to ground units, and they're going, and so we ended up grounding the ship for almost a year, I think, chasing, and we paid shops, and
it was only we would do we'd land and you could transmit perfectly fine. So then
it reminds me of you with the grounding.
We had a grounding wire, and we took off, and we're in a hover and had the aircraft grounded so that we could try and figure out is it a grounding issue? It took us forever, and we called somebody. I don't even remember who we called out.
So it kind of went through the aviation little network of RPD's having this weird problem. Nobody can figure it out, or it's not figured. And Bob Roth, who works for Motorola, and he actually set up the PSEC system for Riverside Sheriff, and then we ended up jumping onto that. He grabbed me and Wayne at a seminar, and he's like, yeah, I heard about your problem. He goes, I'm really interested. He goes, I live around the corner. I'm going to come over. So he comes over, and within a day, we shut down Channel 1. We move all traffic to Channel 2, and within a day, he had it figured out.
Yeah,
and
he had like oscilloscopes out there and was
and I'm
able to see the.
I had to wand the aircraft as we're flying and doing all this, and what they found out was we were fine right up to 102% N2, and then between the numbers of like 103 and 105, it would emit a frequency from the rotor head, and it was chopping the PL tone, the trigger tone, on the mic, so it was entering the pilot's mic and chopping as if he was triggering.
Oh,
yeah,
wow!
And
it's just that frequency.
Just the exact frequency, just in that range. And it was, I know it was definitely a flight idle, but why it worked sometimes and didn't, it had to be that. And we were going to chase it, but we were joining the PSEC system, and we're like,
solved all our problems.
Solved our problem. We're done. No, Julie, I forget, it wasn't Juliet Mike. I forget which aircraft it was, because we sold it, I think, soon after. Or was that? No, it was 9/11.
It was 9/11. Yep.
It's funny you talk about that. You think about all these folks that are having these problems, right? This tribal knowledge that you've got this whole binder of tribal knowledge. And unfortunately, at some point, you're going to retire, and you're going to take that book, that tribal knowledge with you. But that story you just told, I guarantee
he's gonna sell that book.
My wife won't let me take that book home. No, she will not. Yeah. I got enough crap at the house. Yeah. No, she's like, you got enough hot rod stuff. You don't need any more aviation stuff.
But somebody's going to hear what you just talked about, and it's going to trigger something in their troubleshooting process. And you're like, oh, maybe that's a source or a potential source of the problem we're having.
Yeah.
So you sharing these stories, I think, is great. But I want to talk about hot rods, because we talked about that a little bit last night.
Okay.
You've got a really interesting background, and you talked about it earlier. You know, when you talked to the recruiter, you'd been working on their cars. Talk about your background working on cars. When did you start doing that, and what are you doing now with cars?
I started at a really young age. My father's always ridden motorcycles, and I think that's really where it's kind of went from. I'd always ride with him, and I think my parents really didn't love me, because at 10 I had a Harley 90 in Philly, and they'd let me ride it. You know, the rule was you had to act like a car and stop and do all that and wear a helmet. Well, of course it breaks and stuff, and then it led into mini bikes, and then it led into street racing. So my first car was a '69 Camaro. And I'm fortunate enough, I still have it, because of a good friend of mine, Jeff DeVito, in Philadelphia. When I was in the Marine Corps, he allowed me to put it in his garage. Him and his wife, Karen, let me put it in their garage for the 4 years. And I believe I was supposed to pay them rent, but I don't think I did. At least not consistently. So thank you, Jeff.
They've got a lien in your house.
Yeah, they probably do. We have some real nice photos of their wedding around my Camaro. But it was kind of a fixture. But I did a lot of street racing, and I started working at a garage right at 16. I had gotten the car, and they were all in racing, so it just kind of enhanced my love for racing, and I was street racing back then, and building that car and breaking it and abusing it, and just kind of making you learn on the fly, like, you know, what to do. And I was mentored by a lot of really good mechanics back in Philadelphia. It really helped me along in the transition to aviation, because again, I talk a lot about the book and the procedures, but there's a lot of common sense that comes into it, especially when you're working on weird things and different aspects, or fabricating maybe a tool that you need, or doing some fab work, which, you know, I'm not doing much of that anymore. But on the 500s, I did quite a bit of that, you know, and, you know, people flying away with GPUs still plugged in, and
Who did
does
that?
a little bit of sheet metal damage, you know.
That
That's
was
not a good
always-
thing. Don't do that.
That was always my fear.
Yeah.
I was always afraid of that for some reason. It's a weird fear, but I did have that fear.
Yeah,
I heard it sucks.
Yeah, it's a lot of sheet metal work involved in that. So
I feel like there's a story here we need to hear.
No, I don't know. But
Just culture.
Yeah, just culture. There we go.
But
I learned a lot and did a lot, and I just have a love for hot rods and motorcycles and really anything mechanical. But I still have the 69 Camaro. I was fortunate enough, one of my other retired pilots, Jim Vanderhoof's father, had a 54 Ford wagon, and he was, after his passing, he sold it to me. So I have that, and it's something my son and I have tinkered on, and then my son and I built a 70 Dodge Dart. So we got one of each of the big three, so we're good. And he's got a NA Miata he likes playing around with, and it's a pretty cool car.
Man, there's not many people I know that still have their first car.
Yeah, it's a rarity. It really is. But I get more, I'll tell you, I get more compliments. And, I built the Camaro when I was 19. So if you ever see it, it's exactly the way it was when I built it. When different motors, different motor, rear, and transmissions, I'd go through them a lot. But the 54 wagon, I get more compliments. And, it's a 4-door, which most of them didn't survive. And they're not desirable. A lot of people don't love them. It's a good-looking car, but
so it's a 54 Ford wagon, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you said it was?
Yeah, 54.
3-seat or 3 rows of seats.
Yeah,
you said?
It's a true 9-passenger, 3, 3, and 3.
It's a school bus.
It's 3 on the tree with overdrive. So it really, they say 6 gears. It has a little synchro you hit, and it's on the tail shaft, and it's pretty cool. You actually do get a little extra gear on the freeway, so it's nice. But I get more stories about people. We drove this thing the Grand Canyon. I'm like, I barely made it to this car show in this thing. It takes work to drive that thing. Big steering wheel, and it's way up here, and I'm down here driving it. It's tough. I got to stopping 100 yards away.
His cars are beautiful. I mean, he started, working on cars as a kid, so that translated over to how he maintains an aircraft. And I'm telling you, I've flown other 500s or seen other 500s, and I'd go back and I'm like, man, I'd go over to Western, and
I knew you were gonna say that.
Western was great, man. But man, you felt like you had Parkinson's when you got done flying that helicopter because the cyclic shake in it was so bad. And I get it. I mean, they're doing full touchdown autos every day, and but I mean, our aircraft. I mean, if there was any bounce in the cyclic, Matt's going to be out there, working on it. The track and balance on all of our aircraft were just immaculate compared to pretty much anywhere else I've ever flown. Really, I mean, our guys at the Highway Patrol, I'll give them credit, in Tennessee, are on par with what Matt's was doing, maintaining aircraft. But I mean, any little thing, you'd just be like, hey, I noticed, getting a little bit of, cyclic shake. He'd be out there, hooking up the track and balance, and, we're checking it out and getting it dialed in. So, I mean, we were flying, aircraft with 24,000 hours on them, these D models that were just flying like they just come from the factory. I mean, they might not have looked like it on the inside, but that being said, the maintenance side of it was just rock solid, and
that goes to Jim Fackler, Dynamics guy, worked at Chadwick, and that guy's got that. He's one of those, he's forgotten more about track and balance than I'll probably ever know.
So we just had an episode, the Bell Tech Talk episode on track and balance. For you, what was your secret weapon, I guess, when it comes to track and balance? What secrets would you give when it comes to track and balance on a 500?
Safe Structure Designs offers creative, customizable ergonomic safety solutions with over 20 years of experience. Their custom design process is free, ensuring safety and efficiency. Let them create your ideal solution. Visit www.safe-2.com. That's www.safe-2.com for more information.
So we ran a Chadwick. We had the 8500, and then we went into the VXP. Great machines, but I am a true believer in Jim Fackler, and I have a set of notes in that binder, and it would give me the readings, and I would use the notes. And Wayne was really good about using that information, and you sat out, and I do it to this day. On the 500, I plot it out, sit there and I hand draw, and you make a move and you know where you're going. And you have to be very, very conscious about the move you made and where it's going versus where you think it was going to go, because it doesn't always go where you think. And there's always that time we push it. Oh, well, we can get it down a little lower, and then you ruined it, right? You made just that one move too much. Well, the nice thing about taking the notes and doing the plotting, you can remove it and take it away. We're in the microvibe world now. Tony Martinez is my guy now with the Airbus and the B3, because everybody's using it. I mean, I know some people use a little bit of everything, right? There's everything, the microvibe and all that other stuff. And it's nice when you can call someone and say, well, what are you using? And you're using the same tool. You know, if you're using the VXP, which is a great machine, but you call somebody that all they use is microvibe, it doesn't translate well. I will say tracking and balancing the A-Star is a dream compared to the 500. It truly is. But once you do understand the 500, it's there. I mean, it's not difficult. You can do it. It's not something that can't be done. I'd hear people talk about, oh, that's just the best it can be, and it's like, no, it's not, because if that's the best it could be doing whether you're doing pitch links or tab moves or whatever, then you got something bad. There's something bad in the dynamics section. There's something not right, because if that's what you're saying is the best, it's like dialing in a fuel control, right? I mean, you can dial it in, but are you dialing it in for the guy that comes out on a hot motor and a hot call and he's doing a battery start? And, that's what you got to think about. There's always a way for us to make things better. There just really is. And to say, oh, well, that's it, I just don't buy that. That's something I can't buy into.
You bring up going to the A-Star and talking about that being a dream. What's been the most challenging part of that transition for you, going from the 500, who's seen its day, that your particular aircraft, to the most arguably one of the most advanced helicopters that exist, at least in the public safety realm?
He said it was learning French.
Yeah, bonjour. If I'll say this, and the guys at MD and I joke and all that, but here's the thing. I don't know if there's many, but has anyone left the MD world and gone to Airbus and gone back, right? They're just few, if any, right? But what they say is right. It's an expensive endeavor. I mean, that for me, because I run the budget, and I say I run, but Chief Pilot and I, we handle the budget. So we have to ask for this money, right? And flying as much as we've been flying, we're moving into a 3,000-hour inspection, which I didn't anticipate till year 4, maybe even 5, if we were flying like we had been flying the 500s. But now I'm looking at it at year 3. So having to go and deal with the money situation, that's tough, right? The nice thing is our chief, Larry Gonzalez, is amazing. He supports us. He was our lieutenant at one time. He understands aviation. He understands the importance of aviation. So he fully supports it. Our city council fully supports us, which is really, really nice. Once you get through the money part of it, understanding what they call things and what somebody might call one thing to you versus what it's called in the book versus what it's called in the procedure. I was just yelling at them down there. I was talking to Jeff Marzano. I said, I'm telling you, that thing back there at the spider and to the gearbox, I know it's called the end ball. I know it is. But you type in end ball in that search, it does not come up. And he's like, no, it does. And I go, no, it absolutely doesn't, because I just looked it up and I know this. And he's like, I'm going to have to look into that. And then you find the part number, put it in, and what's it come up? It says end ball. Bigger than crap. Yeah, and I'm like, I just spent 20 minutes. So I spend a lot of time trying to find what I'm actually, I know what I want to do. I can look at it and I go, I want to take these bolts off, put these bolts on. I want to take the sleeves off. I want to take them over there and inspect them. But finding that and finding my mod, again, people are going to lean on that, but I think that's what makes the aircraft wonderful, right? And that's why it is where it is, all right? They keep improving. Well, you can't do that and not have modifications or changes or things. And I think that's part of what makes it great, but it also makes it a little bit difficult. You're out there with your 6-10 pages of mods, and you're like, okay, which one is it? And, you know, I don't know how people like the sheriff's department or like LAPD, and, you know, they have multiple like ships out the yin yang, and then they're like, well, okay, that's that one. Okay, where's its set of mods? Like, my ships are very close. There's one mod off. Like, that's it. You know, and that's, other than that, they're identical. So we talk about hoping to get a third ship, buying a used ship, making it a dedicated firefighting ship. And my sell would be, please get it to be modded similarly to these to help me, because it would really help having that. It makes maintenance a whole lot easier. I'd say for me, that I'm hard on myself too. So when it doesn't come as quick as like me looking up, you know, re-greasing a rotor head in a 500, when I'm trying to look for something there, it takes me a bit, and finding, and I'm old school. I like paper, you know, and everything's online. So now I'm on an iPad, and I'm coming through, and, you know, when you couldn't find something exactly what you want, usually you thumb a couple pages, you find it. And this is very specific, you know, and you can start tapping, but you could be heading in a completely wrong way, and, and it just takes a little longer, and it'll come. And a lot of mechanics around us, like Ontario, San Bernardino, Riverside, Anaheim, all those guys have been super supportive. They're like, it'll come, it will come. One day you're going to be laughing about this and looking back, and I can remember doing this with the 500 and sitting there with the manual and like thumbing through, and the pilots at the time actually went into Wayne, and they're like, that kid's in the back seat of the 500 with a book. And they're like, should we be worried?
It's like seeing the airline pilot with the idiot's guide to flying in the front, you know?
And I'm like, I go, really? And they're like, yeah, we were worried about you. And I'm like, but like, I've never, like, I'm doing this like
First time.
as it says. And I had it out there every time. And they're like, yeah, these guys, like, they've been doing it for so long, and, you know, they have torque specs and things of that nature. But for the most part, the procedure, they just knocked it out, you know, doing a blower belt and bearing, which I hate, on a 500. Wayne loved it. We would trade work. I'll do a trim motor over doing blower belt and bearings and rebuilding that damn thing. But yeah, there's a learning curve. It's certainly there. Terminology, they make, again, you know, there's maybe a layman term of something, you know, like, you know, oh, it's a fuel control. Is it a fuel control, or is it HMU, or is it a EBCAL? Where's the EBCAL? What's this? What's the, you know, but it comes with time. And my wife would tell you I'm my hardest critic. I just beat myself up. I just think I should know it.
When we got the Cessna 206, I remember, you know, Matt was like, I mean, he was losing his mind, like, initially, you know, he's like, oh, I got to go learn how to, you know, work on an airplane. And, you know, they sent him to school and stuff. And then he came back, and it was just a short period. And I mean, he had that airplane dialed in, and, you know, it was not a big deal after that. So I could imagine, you know, switching from, you know, the 500 over to the Airbus, that he probably went through those growing pains again, you know. But if there's going to be somebody that's going to figure out how it works, it's going to be this guy. He's always on it.
Talk about the forward planning it took for you, not to just work on the aircraft, but to like think through what's going to change in the shop, what tooling you're going to need, some of the logistical things that'll need to come into play as you're transitioning from one aircraft to the next.
Yeah, I will say one of the benefits to being in SoCal, especially SoCal, you know, law enforcement, there's so many people doing it again. You know, I said it earlier. You can almost map what they're doing, or take the things you like and take the things you don't like, and, you know, discard. So I visited Ontario PD, Anaheim, and Riverside Sheriff. I'm at Riverside Sheriff. Those guys, they think I work there, I think, sometimes. I really do. I'm there all the time, or I'm calling. I'm on the phone with them, like, I don't know, like, where's this, or what's that, or I think it's this part number, and they shipped me this, and it's not what I was thinking it was. So I stole a lot of it, you know. I did. I saw the maintenance stands that I liked, and the city was fully supportive of this, and they allowed me to build a shop, and they allowed me to build it the way I wanted to build it, and it meant a lot to me, because I am a bit anal about certain things. I like things in order where if this lives here, it's going to be back there. That's where it is, and I don't care if you're over on the workbench and you're working on a job and it may be extended, but everything gets put back, because I don't need to be looking for a fluke, for 25 minutes and you have it on the opposite end of the hangar. Like, that's not the way this should be. Like, you need it and you're using it, that's fine, but like, it shouldn't live down there for a week and a half, and then I need it to do maintenance and it's gone. Like, that's unacceptable. So that and parts, I like to keep things really simple. So it's, clearly labeled. Things are big label maker stuff. I like that, and just try to make it easy. My son works at Miguel's Jr. in Southern California. Yeah,
so good.
Yeah, he's there, and he had a class and management class, and they were talking. They said, you're the customer. It should be easy to be a customer here. And I feel that way for my pilots and for me. It should be easy for them to come to me and say, yeah, I notice it's leaking here, and I should take care of it. But it should be just that easy for me or the other mechanic or anyone who happens to come into my shop that they need a O-ring or a filter. It should be, I may not know exactly where it is, but find it fairly quickly. When I worked at Hamilton Standard, we went through the Kaizen and Six Sigma quality and, fewer steps and, making things. Anybody should be able to sit at my desk and do this job and know where everything is. And I buy into that. I really do. And I try to build the shop that way. I'd like to think that any mechanic could come in and granted, be like, well, wait a minute. What? Oh, that's the parts room. Okay, that's the tool room. There's the sheet metal room. Oh, there's 0 to 9s and there's A to Z, and that's a whole thing of filters. I just try to make it easier, because there's nothing worse than spending extra time to find something that should be just right there.
Yeah, if we had like a landing light go out or something like that, it was easy to just go into the parts room and find what you needed very quickly, without having to call Matt and be like, hey, where is this? But if there was something that it was like, okay, there's this one thing we need, like, can't find it, you call him, and he walk you right to it.
Third door on the left, all the way in the back right corner.
That's exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's the way it should be.
Yeah,
for everybody. You need a zip. They call me because they'll need zip ties or something, and like, it's it's the right bank drawer down the bottom, and there it is. Oh, okay. It should be that easy to me.
We're kind of getting short on time. There's just a couple things I want to touch on before we're done. One of which is mission equipment. I think part of the complexity of public safety aviation for maintainers is the fact that you're not just maintaining the systems, you're also maintaining the mission equipment that goes with that, of which, the camera systems, the mapping, the screen, like, there's so many different elements of the mission equipment that ultimately somebody from the air crew is going to come to me and be like, hey, this thing's broken, what do I do with it? Talk about the extra complexity that's added to your job and some of your thoughts on taking care of that stuff.
I'm fortunate in the fact that, again, my pilots and I are really close. So early on in my career, I flew a lot more. I kind of worked the TFO side a little bit, and
he wouldn't talk on the radio.
I would not talk at the time.
There was one time,
yes, and I got the Golden Mike Award. Yeah.
That's another major award he's won.
I still have that. So I wish somebody else would mess up and.
Wait a minute. Let's hear about what's the Golden Mike Award.
So we had a little golden microphone, little what do you call it? Little trophy.
Yeah, little mini trophy.
Little miniature trophy. And if you said something stupid on the radio, you got the Golden Mike Award. And many years ago, we were flying. We were going down to French Valley we were taking off, and I'm not going to go into specifics about what was said.
They have a recording of it. There's a recording.
There is a recording of it because it went out on Dispatch Channel 1. Matt flipped the intercom switch the wrong direction.
I was half asleep.
Going out on the radio, and we were talking about we saw a helicopter parked on the ramp at Riverside as we were departing our hangar, and it said Cougar on the side. And Matt had a tirade about cougars, not the animal version, and
going to Vegas.
Yeah,
and strippers and
it was Cougar bus.
Yeah, and it was a pretty long.
Yeah. And then weather. We had to turn around and come back. So now Matt's like, and I'm like, I'm flying, and Zach was TFO.
Yeah. I see the
and
hand
I'm like,
going
I
like
look
this.
up, because he's transmitting. Well, we can see that he's transmitting up front, and he's just going on, and we're both, and like you can't cut in, and because he's on the radio, he's going out on the radio, so we're like trying, Matt, and waving our hands and stuff, and he comes and he's like, what? And we're like, you were transmitting, man, and then it was like. Dispatch comes on, is like, Air One, did you have traffic? We're like, no, negative. And then,
car.
And then our sergeant, gets on the radio and is like, hey, when you land, give me a call, or something like that. It was like, no, and we had to go right back to the hangar. Matt's like, I'm getting fired. I'm getting the FCC violation.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've all said some pretty dumb things on the radio.
No, this one was a long. This was a story that should have been just kept in the ICS area and the world,
Well,
yep. I would bump into officers in the street, and they'd be like, "Man, that was the best." And I'm like, "Oh, gosh." Dispatchers would meet it. They're like, "Oh, that's funny." I'm like, "Yeah."
So does the golden mic have a place of prominence in your house?
No, that couldn't come into my mind. I wouldn't let that there either. It's on my desk at work because I'm praying that somebody else gets their name put on. There are 2 other pilots on there. John Fears is one of them. Yeah, John Fears and Gary Williams. Their names are on there. So it's not just me.
Well, one more question.
Hey, I had the pink flamingo.
Yeah, you did.
I had the pink flamingo.
To the mission equipment. Honestly, the nicest thing that it helps me being alone and being that we generally only have 2 mechanics. Our pilots, I work so closely with them. They're really the experts in the FLIR. I just usually facilitate like the simple fixes, the little things. I'm very good friends with Mike Hiphorn at Traca, and Dave Marquez does installs for him. So I have a lot of resources. So it really does make it really easy. We have a great relationship with Shotover, which is super helpful. Customer service is phenomenal. I mean, that's what really, I mean, I can't say that enough. It's like, it's everyone that makes it a great job. It makes it just super enjoyable.
Yeah.
Maybe not my last 3 months, but otherwise.
We just talked about it with Nick Romano with Broward County. It always comes back to the same thing, man. It's just this industry is just super supportive of one another. There's nobody's hiding, like you're talking about, like protecting information and stuff. It's like we just make each other better by sharing what we know and that tribal knowledge, and it's something that's, I think, really unique in airborne law enforcement, especially where nobody's competing. We're not competing for customers, and there's no trade secrets that that we can't share amongst each other to make each other better, and it goes not just for the sworn side, but for the maintenance side as well.
What advice do you have for an agency who's about to go through what you've just experienced, as far as adopting a new aircraft, adopting new mission sets, all the things that you've done over the last couple of years as you've planned or prepared for this? What advice do you have for those folks?
I'd say the key, at least to the success that we've had, and we're still growing. There's things, I mean, like we went out to fight a fire and the Bambi bucket cable got stuck and they couldn't deploy it and had to bring it back full bag. So we're still learning, we're still doing things, and we're getting better at all those things. But patience is, and you have to have buy-in from your command. Like my chief, my deputy chief, my captain, my lieutenants, all of them really have my back, and not just my back, the whole unit, because they do know that there are going to be hiccups. There's going to be a learning curve in all this, like the overspeed, and I mean, there's people that fly forever and may never have a. But then there's a guy that may fly 10 years and then have one, or, in this case, it just happens. But if you have the patience and understanding while everybody's learning this, nobody's out there trying to do a bad job. Nobody's out there trying to ruin equipment. Nobody's trying to do these things. We're all trying to do the best job we can. And if you have the buy-in and they allow you to grow at a speed that everybody's comfortable with. That's the art. Nobody says that you as a pilot in a new airframe need to be here tomorrow, because that here is different for everybody. And you can't expect it to be the same for everyone. So if one person, it's there, it may not be for another person. So you have to have that patience and understanding. Same on the maintenance side. Like me not having a part and I need it, it's going to happen. I mean, when I look at, I was just at San Bernardino County with you, and I went into their parts department. It makes your head spin, but they've been doing this a long time, and it's millions of dollars, and it's hard to start from a zero. You know, I can remember my wife and I moved into our first apartment, and had this beautiful, like, real big cupboard, you know, and I pop it open. It's just empty. There's nothing in there. There's not even like a salt and pepper shaker, you know? And that's what it really did feel like.
Yeah.
You know, I'm opening these beautiful bins, and it's just empty. There's just nothing. And you have to start somewhere, you know? And people will throw parts lists at you. And, you know, if you have the deepest pockets, I go have at it, man. Order away. But for us, our budget's fairly tight. We have to be very strategic about the things we have. So patience and understanding, and know that if you're getting into whatever airframe you may be getting into, whatever the cost you have set, it's going to be more. It just really is. And you can't get hung up on that, because you're hindering yourself by not, like, the tooling. I'm ordering a mag seal tool right now, and I actually accidentally ordered the wrong one. But I could borrow it. I could rent it. There's all those options. But when you're in the middle of maintenance, you just need it done, right? So dropping $5,000-$6,000 on a tool that's making your life easier and getting you mission ready, that's the key. That's what needs to happen. So if you have a department that's going to balk at a $5,000 tool, you probably don't want to change airframe. Stick with what you have.
Yeah. Last question. It's kind of call it a hot seat question. What we refer to in the Hangar Z podcast is like our icebreaker. But you talk about tools. It's more of a question of curiosity. What's your most favorite tool? One tool that, like, this is the one thing I couldn't live without. The one thing, it may not be used all the time, but what's the one thing that this is my favorite tool?
Well, when Jeff worked with us, it would have been Jeff.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
I had a feeling it was going to go there.
No.
Now it's Steve Quinn.
Yeah. Steve or Edwin. I'm going to say Edwin. There it is. Yeah, gosh. I don't. The Microvibe is just a wonderful thing to have. I mean, and you use it so often that I have to say that right now. Because it really, really does a great job with that short shaft and that tail rotor. It really does. It's and it may be because of Tony Martinez's instructions, but it really, really makes things a lot easier.
I think his favorite tool should be the notebook, really. I mean, his
I was going to say my iPad, because damn pubs are all online.
Yeah.
I got to scroll through and do all that. Yeah. I would have to go with that. Other than, like, some of the specialty tools, of course, and it's all that specific Airbus stuff, for the sleeves and things of that really, really help hold things and line stuff up nicely. But I have to go with the Microvibe right now, for sure.
I think mine is, and I've heard a lot of interesting things, but I think the one thing I've heard and I agree with is the flashlight.
Yeah.
Like, that's the one tool that, I think everyone's got a lot of experience using. Even I can't mess up. I guess I could mess a flashlight up. My dad could yell at me the way I'm holding it,
Yeah.
But Jeff, what's your favorite tool?
Probably I would have to say the flashlight's a good one. And my pocket knife comes in handy all the time.
Now that we're talking about this, I have a mini screwdriver right here in my top pocket. I keep it. That's my most used tool. Guaranteed. It's got a Phillips head on one side and a regular on the other, and I just have it.
Your EDC.
Yeah.
Now, when I was a mechanic, it was always like the Leatherman. I mean, you can do so much with the Leatherman.
Yeah.
Like when I was A&P mechanic, crew chief, always have my Leatherman on me, because I mean, you could pretty much fix anything with that. You had all the tools you really needed right there for simple stuff. But yeah, I would have to say, or like the mechanical fingers when you drop stuff. That was always handy.
Mirror's a good one too, because you're like, where'd that go? Down in the belly of the 500 with all the oil.
They're turning the lights off. What's happening?
Closing this place down.
It's the curtain call.
Yep.
Well, I guess it's a good opportunity, and good segue for us to start wrapping this up. Jeff, closing thoughts and last words for Matt.
Well, I'm going to say it again. I said it in the beginning, but I can't think of anybody that's more deserving of the Maintenance Technician of the Year award through APSA. Matt's just a phenomenal guy. I think this hour and a half you've heard that. So congratulations, Matt.
Thank you, Jeff. I
love
appreciate
you, brother.
it. I know.
It's been
miss you.
Yeah, miss you too. Gonna get emotional.
I know.
Gonna start getting verklempt. I'm gonna get verklempt. But no, it's it was a pleasure. The 14 years I was in Riverside, most of them, involved in the aviation unit part-time and then full-time for the last 9 years. But to have a guy like Matt working on your aircraft, it's a dream.
Yeah.
And this award and the fact that, Steve unfortunately came out here, but he came out on his own dime. Nobody's paying him to be here. I'm paying him to stay away from here right now, but it just speaks volumes to who Matt is as a person. It's a great unit. It's a great group of guys. I'd say I'm proud, but that's not the right word for it. I'm happy to see the growth in the unit over the last 5 years since I was there. These guys are doing phenomenal work, and a lot of it is resting on Matt's shoulders. So
it's been an honor to sit here and talk with you. I never got a chance to work with you, but it's apparent through the last hour and a half that we've talked that you've built your career and all the things that you've done throughout your career through partnerships, through teamwork, through those things that benefit not only you but everyone around you, and that's really cool. That's an honorable way to do it. I think that's the one thing that stands out the most to me is just your willingness and desire to create these partnerships for the betterment of everybody. So thank you for your passion, your commitment to the industry, and all the things you're doing here. This is really cool. That the award that you received is an honor, and like Jeff said, I truly deserving of that. So thanks again for everything. Until next time, I guess we'll call it quits before these guys break everything down around us. But thank you again, and until next time, we'll catch you later.
All right. Thank you very much.
Stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors.
Verticon was epic. More than 600 companies, 15,000 attendees, and the cutting edge of vertical aviation technology. Next stop, Atlanta. The show floor is filling fast. Apply for space. Secure your spot now at the world's largest vertical aviation show, Verticon, powered by VAI at verticon.org.
Thank you to our sponsor, Robinson Helicopter Company, the choice for unrivaled safety and reliability so you can accomplish any mission with confidence. For more than half a century, Robinson has been at the forefront of the helicopter industry. From the R-22 to the R-66 turbine, Robinson makes helicopters accessible so more people can accomplish more missions. Climb higher. For additional information, visit www.robinsonheli.com.
Safe Structure Designs offers creative, customizable ergonomic safety solutions with over 20 years of experience. Their custom design process is free, ensuring safety and efficiency. Let them create your ideal solution. Visit www.safe-2.com. That's www.safe-2.com for more information. Thank you for joining us on this special episode of the Vertical MRO Podcast. We had the pleasure of celebrating Matt Pagano and his outstanding contributions to public safety aviation, highlighted by his receipt of the 2025 Airborne Public Safety Aviation Technical Specialist Award. A big thank you to our guest host, Jeff Rakovich, and to Matt for sharing his insights on navigating aircraft transitions, mentorship, and the importance of a strong safety culture. Remember, it's the dedication, teamwork, and knowledge sharing within our industry that continues to elevate the standards of helicopter maintenance. We appreciate our sponsors, Safe Structure Designs, Robinson Helicopter Company, and Vertical Aviation International for their support. Stay tuned for more conversations that inspire, inform, and connect us in the world of helicopter aviation. Until next time, this is the Vertical MRO Podcast.